The moon hung low over King's Landing, a bruised fruit, bruised further by the restless swell of clouds. Yet even in the small hours, heat seeped from the Red Keep's marble bones, hinting at summer's approach. It mattered little to Oberin Nymeros Martell, for he had never feared the heat. He strode through the fresco-bright corridors, with the quick, sure steps of a man bred beneath a fiercer sun. Silk boots whispering upon polished stone, a single lamp carried high in his left hand. The flame wavered, gilding the walls and limning half-forgotten victories. Aegon's conquest, Maegor's bloody reign, Beller's futile pieties. The histories had always belonged to dragons and lions. Tonight, a flicker of sharp delight coursed through him. They would learn to bow before the viper. He paused outside a heavy door banded in iron. 2 red cloaks lounged beside it, the closest wiping mead from his beard, the other half asleep on his feet. "It is late for visitors, sir," the bearded man muttered. "My business with Lord Tywin admits no dawn." Oberyn replied, voice a soft murmur edged in steel. The guards exchanged a look. Every man in the city had heard tales of the Prince of Dorne's poison-tipped courtesy. They stepped aside. Tywin Lannister's solar was dim, save for embers glowing in the hearth. The great lion himself sat at a broad cedar desk, quill scratching parchment, armored in his customary, implacable calm. Only his eyes flicked upward. Prince Oberyn. The name landed like a verdict. "I trust you bring word of your niece's well-being." "Arianne writes often, my lord. She enjoys the peach groves of Sunspear. They remind her life is sweet, if one bites deep and fast." "And now?" Tywin set down the quill. "Pleasantries at midnight. Am I to guess the reason?" "Guessing ill becomes a Lannister. You know why I am here." Tywin's lips thinned. "You were promised justice. Sir Gregor's confession will be extracted come morning one way or another. If this is impatience—" "Impatience?" Oberyn advanced. "How many years did you leave my sister to scream in the dark of Harrenhal? How many times did my brother beg for her bones? How many answers did you grant?" His lamp cast shadows that writhed across the lion's pale face. "That day was war," Tywin said. "War breeds horrors. I do not revel in them." "You reap them," Oberyn hissed. "But that harvest ends tonight." Metal rasped. A thin, leaf-curved blade slid free of his sleeve. A widow's wail forged in Qohor, kissed by viper venom. There would be no bells, no witnesses, only a swift, definitive cut into history's weave. Tywin rose. Slow as a glacier, hand drifting toward the dagger at his belt. Too slow. Oberyn flicked his wrist. The slender blade whispered forward, parting chain, wool, and flesh beneath the lion's throat. A breathless gasp, no roar, escaped Tywin as the prince's free hand pressed a soaked kerchief to stanch a flood that would not be staunched. Poison raced through the wound faster than blood. Tywin Lannister sagged into his chair, golden eyes clouding. Oberyn leaned close, letting the dying man read the verdict etched in his own smile. "For Elia," he whispered. When the great lion's final breath rattled into silence, Oberyn set the corpse upright. Quill poised between rigid fingers, the parchment smeared red. "Let the maids think fatigue," claimed him mid-edict. "Let the realm learn the truth later, when truth served his purpose." Outside, dawn's first blush threaded the sky. The viper sheathed his blade and stepped into a kingdom about to molt. Rumor travels swifter than ravens when fed with fear. Within hours, small folk claimed they'd seen a pale ghost stalking the Red Keep, or that Tywin's heart burst from the weight of his sins. By noon, the hand's death was certain, his cause opaque as the narrow sea in fog. Yet one fact cut through every tavern whisper. Prince Oberyn was last to speak with the lion alive. The small council convened beneath vaulted windows. Cersei's grief was carved from ice and rage. Tyrion's shock rode closer to wonder. Lord Varys fluttered his sleeves like anxious doves, while Grand Maester Pycelle rasped pieties none heard. Mace Tyrell studied his nails, as though they offered safer counsel than any present. Oberyn sat at the foot of the table, wine red as coals swirling in his cup. When they demanded answers, he shrugged, a dancer shrugging aside a veil. I found him slumped upon his letters. The burden of rule felled him, he said. Men are mortal, even lions. And Elia. Tyrion's voice cracked. Was she mortal enough? The prince's dark gaze met the dwarf's. She deserved to grow old in Dorne, rocking babes of her own blood. She deserved justice. I have found some. Cersei slammed both palms on the table. You confess to murder? I confess nothing. Oberyn's smile gleamed. Yet I own my vengeance. Can the crown own its crimes? Then. Silence gathered, hushed and pregnant. Varys cleared his throat. In these turbulent times, the realm begs a steady hand. His grace is but a child. Cersei whirled. My son will not be usurped by a snake who slithered into our trust. Your son, Oberyn murmured, was Aerys's grandson, if rumor speaks true. Gasps rippled. No. Then let us test blood and see which truth bleeds brighter. The queen's face blanched white as chalk dust. In that heartbeat of stunned horror, the balance of power tilted. Mace Tyrell weighed roses against vipers and saw petals wilt beneath fang. Pycelle, smelling change, bowed toward Oberyn, as though to a rising sun. Even Varys' pink tongue flicked to wet his lips. Tyrion exhaled a brittle laugh. 7 save us. I dared dream of justice, but you aim higher. Revolution, in one stroke. Not revolution, the prince said softly. Restoration. The Iron Throne has sat sullied by butcher kings. I will cleanse it. I claim it in the name of Elias' children, denied life. I claim it for Dorne, for the Dornish blood spilled on these stones. He rose, cloak of sunrise silk falling like dawn behind him. Kneel, and I shall spare the innocent. Across the table, Cersei unsheathed a jeweled dagger. Tyrion reached for her wrist. Mace Tyrell averted his gaze. Pycelle collapsed to creaking knees. Varys bowed so deeply his bald head brushed the floor. Only Tyrion remained standing, torn between impossible loyalties. At last, he bent one knee. The coronation filled the dragon pit, its scorched shell garlanded in Martell orange. Dorne's banners, spear through sunburst, fluttered beside Lannister crimson, now gilded black. A mourning shroud for a dead dynasty. The faith balked, yet gold cloaks lined the nave, sworn to a new sovereign before most learned his name. Gold, after all, serves any master who dazzles brighter. Oberyn Martell mounted, carved basalt steps toward a throne forged of swords and lies. A hush fell. He wore armor of dusk vitrum scales that drank the light, and upon his brow a circlet wrought in the shape of twin vipers, devouring their tails. When the high septon approached, trembling censer in hand, Oberyn lifted it and waved away the incense. I need no blessing to rule justly, he proclaimed. Let deeds sanctify this crown. Then he sat, fingers curling around twisted steel. The throne cut his palm, as if to test his mettle. Blood welled, dark as garnet. He raised it for all to see. Pain remembers, he said. So shall this realm. Cheers erupted, confused, uneasy, yet swelling with each heartbeat until they cascaded over stone walls, echoing across rooftops to the Blackwater's edge. Somewhere in the crowd, a Dornish girl sobbed with joy. Elsewhere, a Septon crossed himself in dread. Revolution disguised as enthronement had found root. Yet a throne is not a victory, it is a siege in perpetuity. Ravens winged north and east and south, carrying tidings of the Viper King to lordlings nursing old wounds. In the Vale, Littlefinger weighed prophet in chaos. In the Riverlands, the Blackfish sharpened spears for Tully honor. At Winterfell's ruins, Roose Bolton sent quiet letters to the Dreadfort, pondering flayed princes. Oberyn answered with quills of his own. To the Reach he dispatched Arianne, her wit sweet as pomegranate, and twice as tart. She courted Marguerite Tyrell beneath golden orchards, promising equal thrones, one for flowers, one for flames, if the Reach bent knee. In Sunspear, Oberyn's paramour Ilaria rallied spearmen, their sand-colored leathers kissing scabbards soaked in ash, ready to march north and assert Dornish justice upon a continent that had long sneered at their customs. But the first challenge came not from distant keeps. It came from within the Red Keep's very heart. On a humid evening scented by river rot, Tyrion Lannister limped into the throne room, lantern held like a negligible shield. He found Oberyn alone, seated cross-legged on the sword steps, palms pressed upon knees. No candles, only moonlight silvered the blades. "You dismissed your guards." "I have no fear of shadows," Oberyn said without opening his eyes. "Perhaps you should." Tyrion halted a dozen paces away. "I have come to betray you." Oberyn's lids lifted lazily. "Confession prefaces treachery? I prefer candor. One dwarf's luxury." Tyrion tossed a parchment. It unfurled across the swords, scrawled with sigils, a crowned stag, a flayed man, a mockingbird. "Your enemies gather. They mean to meet beneath Lord Baelish's hospitality in Gulltown. They intend an alliance, crowning Tommen as a puppet to rally those uneasy with Dornish blood on the throne." The prince studied the map. "And you choose to tell me. Why?" "Because my sister would burn the world to rule its ashes, and my father is beyond vengeance. I have no love for Tommen's throne, yet I would see the realm survive." "You speak of justice. Prove it. Spare the cities your enemies will gladly drown in blood. Meet them, not with wildfire, but with reason." Oberyn rose. "You barter information for hope." "For a place in your court," Tyrion corrected. "I have no land, my birthright stolen. But I have wit, and wit's carved thrones sharper than steel." Laughter glimmered in Oberyn's dark eyes. "Will you serve the man who slew your sire?" "My father crafted my chains," Tyrion said, voice iron. "You shattered them. I can serve my liberator." The Viper considered, then offered a hand. Tyrion clasped it. "Come dawn," Oberyn said. "We ride for Gulltown." The sea whipped foamy breath against the prow of the swift Vengeance. A sleek Dornish galley commissioned within hours after the council resolved that speed was paramount and subtlety a myth. Oberyn stood at the bow, hair streaming like a raven's pennon, Tyrion at his side wrapped in a thick cloak. "You gamble that Baelish craves riches above titles," Tyrion murmured. "Littlefinger is a man who hoards promises more than coin," Oberyn replied. "I will bury him in promises so heavy he cannot rise for Tommen. And if he prefers Lannister gold." The prince flashed a grin. "I stole the Lannister treasury when Cersei fled the city. Gold follows the Iron Throne like whores follow war. Baelish will sniff it out soon enough." They made port beneath Gulltown's pale cliffs. Fog swirled, muffling the shouts of harbor hands. Under moonlit secrecy, they climbed switchbacks toward the gates of the moon. There, within a turret chamber draped in mockingbird banners, Petyr Baelish awaited, flanked by Roose Bolton and Stannis Baratheon's smoldering gaze. Stannis, drawn by tongues whispering of illegitimacy and false heirs. Conversation froze as Oberyn entered. Only Baelish smiled, thin as catgut. "Your grace honors us," Petyr purred. "Though, forgive me, protocol says we host envoys, not kings." "Protocol is a leash for small men," Oberyn countered. "I bring terms." Stannis snorted. "No terms can alter birthright. Boy King or Viper King, both are usurpers. The crown is mine by rights of blood and law." "Then see." "Law?" Roose Bolton's voice slid like a blade. "Law favored the dragons once. The North bent, then burned. History's law is writ by victory." Oberyn raised a hand. "Let us speak plain. The realm staggers under famine and grief. It needs grain, peace, roads free of bandits. It needs a king who will wed justice to strength. Not a child, not a man who brooks no counsel." His gaze speared Stannis, moved to Bolton. "Not one who skins his own lands for amusement." Stannis' jaw clenched. "This parley is folly. Words will not sate the gods." "Then? Perhaps they might sate the starving," Tyrion said from the shadows. "Listen before flaying or smiting." A tense hour followed. Bolton's ambitions tangled with Baelish's avarice, both snared by Tyrion's deft flattery and Oberyn's blunt offers. Governorships, coin, the promise of southern brides for their heirs. Stannis held firm, until Oberyn produced a sealed raven scroll from Dragonstone, confirming Shireen's survival of Grayscale and Dorne's vaunted healers willing to aid her. The Baratheon resolve wavered. A father's love cracked iron will. At dawn, the chamber doors burst open. Catelyn Stark strode in, gray eyes honed to steel. Word had reached her of Bolton's presence, and she carried Robb's crown in her hands, scoring the air with memory's bite. She demanded vengeance. She demanded the North. Bolton paled, for a specter named Red Wedding stalked his dreams. Oberyn, ceasing fate, knelt before her, pledging justice. Land for House Stark. Flayed men hung in Winterfell's harbor for crows. When he rose, crown still in her shaking fingers, Catelyn found herself believing. By twilight, 4 signatures adorned the Pact of Gulltown. Stannis swore fealty in exchange for Dragonstone's autonomy and healing for his daughter. Bolton bent knee, though his wolfish smile suggested schemes nested in schemes. Baelish signed last, ink glittering like oil upon water, his reward vast trade charters and official stewardship of the Eyrie. Catelyn did not sign. She pressed Robb's crown to Oberyn's brow, anointing him with the blood of the North's dead. In that echoing hall, the realm found improbable unity. Winter arrived fitfully, heralded by squalls of sleet. King Oberyn returned to King's Landing beneath banners stitched from every great house. Rose and sun, trout and spear, crowned stag direwolf, flayed man notably absent. Small folk lined streets slick with melting frost, cheering not titles but hope. The city's underbelly, once swollen with fear, sensed the tremor of possibility. The king's first decree abolished the practice of child brothels, a blossom of humanity amidst misery. His second halved tariffs on grain while doubling taxes on swords for hire, forcing sellswards to pledge service or starve. His third, most whispered, ordered a tribunal toppling the faith militant reborn under Cersei's brief tyranny, returning septs to contemplation instead of arms. Men called it madness. Yet hunger lessened, docks bustled, and prayer regained quiet. Trials followed. Sir Gregor Clegane, held alive by Pycelle's poppycraft, confessed horrors in a sick room before the eyes of scattered victims. Oberyn stood vigil, ensuring the confession was witnessed by beggars and lords alike. When the mountain's rotting husk finally stilled, the king poured the ashes into Blackwater Bay, declaring, "Let the tides remember." The gesture rang through taverns for months. Yet not all hearts turned. Inside the Tower of the Hand, once Tywin's sanctum, Cersei plotted retaking power. She forged secret alliances with Ironborn eager for conquest, promising ports for plunder. She traded letters with Euron Greyjoy, whose mad ship's silence carved red wakes along the sunset sea. In exchange for her son's elevation, she offered him queenship, and darker things whispered only in dusk. The Iron Fleet appeared off Duskendale one misty dawn, sails black as morning. Raiders spilled ashore, sacking villages, seeking a path to King's Landing. Word reached the capital. Oberyn assembled his court in the map room. "Cersei orchestrates this," Tyrion said, face tight with shame. "She'll use the chaos to spirit Tommen into the city, rally Lannister loyalists, and besiege us from within." "She will fail," the king answered. "But the price will be innocent blood. We must strike first." Now, Stannis, now Hand of Ships, proposed meeting the Iron Fleet at sea with newly forged dromons crewed by Tyrell sailors. Bolton offered northern crossbowmen to line the city walls. Catelyn urged rallying river lords to halt Euron upriver. Baelish simpered approval, already calculating tariff boons from salvaged wreckage. The plan hinged upon one perilous element. Oberyn himself would lead the vanguard, aboard the Sunspear, daring the silence to single combat amidst waves. Salt spray stung like 1,000 tiny whips as rival flagships closed upon each other. Euron's laughter carried across the water, a keening gull's cry. The Silence's masts were bone-white spears, its figurehead, a naked maiden with gemmed eyes, blood-dried rust. Oberin stood at the prow, spear in hand, its tip glistening with a black paste thick as nightshade. Tyrion, below decks, manned ballistae with wine-loosened sailors. Stannis' Drummons formed a crescent, catapults primed. Drums thundered. Oars churned. The gap vanished. The first impact splintered rails and sent men toppling. Grapnels snagged wood. Euron vaulted onto the Sunspear's deck, axe whirling, patchwork cloak flapping like storm-torn sails. Angel-bright rage lit his mismatched eyes. "Another pretender to drown," he roared. Oberyn met him mid-deck. Their weapons kissed. Spear shaft to axe haft. Sparks cascading. Euron struck with brute force, hacking, driving deity. The viper danced, footwork serpent sinuous, each thrust a question. The axe swung answers in clangor. Around them, sailors screamed and fought, but the world narrowed to one rhythm, two hearts. Euron feinted low. The spear snapped aside his guard, flicked upward. The iron bite scored his cheek. He laughed, tasting poison on his tongue. "Tricks." "Justice," Oberyn corrected, pivoting, plunging a second strike into Euron's thigh. Venom surged through the Kraken's blood. Euron's laughter became a gargled hymn as his limbs stiffened. The prince stepped close, whispering against his ear, "I do not waste poison on rumors." He drove the spearhead through Euron's chest. The Silence's crew howled. Some leapt overboard, others fought on. But when the Kraken fell, morale foundered. Stannis' catapults flung molten pitch. Tyrell sailors boarded. The Iron Fleet broke, sails ablaze beneath a red sun. On shore, Cersei waited within an abandoned watchtower, Tommen clutching her skirts. She watched black sails burn. Her escort, Harys Swift, a dozen knights, shifted uneasily. Hoofbeats echoed. A Dornish outrider arrived with banner unfurled. "Queen Regent," he called. "King Oberyn offers you the cells or the sands. Choose to you." She chose defiance, pulling a dagger to slit Tommen's throat rather than surrender. Sir Swift wrested the blade away. Knights pinned her shrieking to the ground. Mother and son were borne back to King's Landing in iron cages, displayed along riverside roads to dissuade fresh rebellions. Some spat, others prayed. Oberyn decreed the boy spared and fostered in Dorne, where children were not pawns but princes. Cersei, condemned yet kept alive, found herself locked within the sept of Baelor, forced to serve penance among silent sisters who heard every sob echo through stone cloisters. Years unfurled. Roads stretched from Old Town to White Harbor, paved by coin won in new trade routes brokered by Baelish, though more than one ledger caught Tyrion's sharp eye, and levies reclaimed excesses. The Reach's wheat filled granaries across the realm. Dornish water gardens taught southern irrigation to northern fields. The north healed beneath Queen Regent Caitlyn's stewardship and the guiding hand of a young Rickon, his direwolf's howl promising old honor renewed. Towers of Dragonstone gleamed under Stannis' strict but just rule, its harbors patrolled by fleets united under a sigil newly designed. A crowned viper guarding a blazing sun. Bolton's betrayals, when they finally bloomed, died swiftly. His ravens to Casterly Rock found only burned tapestries. Skinned men dangled from Winterfell's rebuilt ramparts. The North remembers, and so did Oberyn's spies. A single spear dispatched ruse at a feast. The assassin vanished like dawn mist. Some said it was Arya Stark. Others whispered sand snakes. The king neither confirmed nor denied. Through it all, Oberyn walked among his people, cloak open, children chasing its fluttering edge. He listened to bakers, smiths, sellswords. His laughter filled feast halls. His fury raised corruption. The throne cut him often, yet each fresh wound reminded him of Elias' cries, of children dashed against walls, of justice that must never slumber. One winter night, steel sky, stars brittle as frost, Oberin stood upon Maegor's holdfast balcony beside Ilaria. Lanterns dotted the capital, a constellation mirroring heaven. Ilaria's arm slipped about his waist. "Does peace satisfy the viper?" she asked. He considered. "Peace is a garden. One must prune, water, guard against weeds. Yet, yes, it tastes sweeter than vengeance ever promised." Below, the black water gleamed silver. Bells rang, a birth in Flea Bottom, a wedding in the dragon pit rebuilt as amphitheater, a ship's return from Yeti heavy with spice. Life pulsed, indifferent to blood spilled to secure its flow. Oberin closed his eyes, breathing in the scents. River, roasting chestnuts, distant myrrh from a sap. He felt the throne's phantom sting in his palm, and knew history would remember him, not only as the Viper King, but as the healer of wounds, older than dragons. For the first time since a babe's scream echoed in the halls of Lannisport the night Elia died, Oberyn Martell felt the quiet hush of almost content. He kissed Ilaria's brow and turned toward the palace, where letters awaited. Always letters, always small fires to stamp before they blazed. Yet he walked lighter, spine unbowed. For he had slain a lion and claimed a crown, and in doing so, had offered the realm not poison, but cure. And somewhere, in dreams perhaps, his sister's laughter answered, carried on Dornish wind. "Okay. Mist thick as hearth smoke rolled over the black water and wrapped the city in gauze, muffling the clang of harbor bells and the clatter of mule carts bound for the mud gate. From the highest balcony of Maegor's holdfast, King Oberyn watched torches wink along the wharves like fireflies trapped in glass. Behind him, the painted hall lay silent, save for the soft breath of sentries in half-sleep, yet he did not stir to wake them. 2 hours past midnight, and already the day pressed eager fingers against the shutters. He sensed the change in the air, the way serpents felt thunder through the soil. A subtle tremor, a shifting heat that warned of summer storms. Word had come on gray wings from Pentos. 3 dragons grown as long as gilded war galleys, their queen marching west with freedmen in her wake. The message lay open on the parapet, ink beating where drizzle kissed it. Along the margin, Varys' cautious hand had noted dragon number uncertain and strength of host fluid. Oberyn's answering smile was crooked as a scar. Behind him, bare feet padded across mosaic tile. Ilaria emerged, robe slipping from one shoulder. Her dark curls were tangled with sleep. Candlelight turned the beads at her throat to scattered sunbursts. She stepped beside him and followed his gaze to the river. "You wear that look you wore the night you faced Gregor," she murmured, voice rasped soft by drowsy haze. "Do we duel another monster at dawn?" "Perhaps," he said, "but this beast breathes fire. Daenerys Stormborn sails for Westeros." Ilaria rested elbows on the balustrade. A Targaryen queen against a Dornish king, irony enough to make the gods laugh. "I have never feasted on irony, my love. A banquet of blood is likelier. And yet you smile. Because blood can be bargained with, if the heart that pumps it seeks justice instead of ashes." He tapped the parchment. "Her path is scorched by chains broken, not forged. We share that creed." Ilaria laid a hand on his. "Then greet her with olive branch, not spear." He closed chilly fingers round her warmth. "I mean to. But I must also gird the realm. A queen's arrival can unseat every fragile loyalty I have stitched together." "No." Ilaria studied him. "You fear your council. I respect their hungers. Tyrells thirst for roses on every banner. Starks crave their own snows unsullied. Stannis drinks only righteousness. And Baelish dines on chaos. Dragons would be a feast to him." Ilaria kissed his knuckles. "Then feed him dust." Morning brought clamor to the throne room. Shafts of dawn burned dust motes to motes of gold, and the iron throne glimmered like a whetted saw. Oberyn mounted its steps, cloak of sunrise silk rippling with each heartbeat. Below, the council assembled. Tyrion with quills bristling behind an ear. Margaery Tyrell fragrant as a summer orchard, green eyes quick. Stannis austere in black. Catelyn Stark wearing grief like steel. And Petyr Baelish, whose smile weighed every man's worth in scales unseen. When Oberin announced that Daenerys Targaryen approached, a storm of voices rose. Stannis frowned thunder. Another usurper. Dragonfire devours law. Margaery's tone dripped honey. A queen famed for freeing slaves might stir hearts starved for legends. She glanced toward Tyrion. And legends breed gardens or graves depending on gardeners. Tyrion balanced 2 coins on his knuckles. I once drank with a sell-sale who claimed dragonflame can melt gold in flight. I would rather not test the tale. Baelish folded, gloved hands. Opportunity. Dragons draw merchants like blood draws flies. Ports will bloat with trade. If we ensure caravans reach them unburned. Catelyn remained silent until all eyes found her. If dragons come, the North remembers the old terror. Wall or no wall, ice and fire both consume. We need truth of her intent before vows or battles. They. Oberin lifted a finger. Then truth we shall have. I will invite her to treat at Storm's End, neutral ground between sun and snow, stone thick enough to survive a quarrel if our words fail. Stannis' jaw tightened. It was still his ancestral seat even after surrender and crown. But he nodded. Walls of Storm's End have defied dragons before. She will see that in the mortar. And feel the ghosts of dear Renly? Tyrion muttered. Oberin's spear-sharp glance silenced him. Prepare ravens. Provision, the king's road. Margaery, your gardens will host her freedmen. Feed them. Show the realm our peace is as sharp as our swords. Pettier. Baelish dipped a mock bow. Chaos must be curated, your grace. I will weave the market stalls so none unravel. He left the rest unsaid. Profit would rise like tidewater around his boots. Oberyn let it pass. Even vipers needed carrion flies to scour bones clean. 2 weeks later, Storm's End loomed from the sea cliff like a giant's clenched fist. Turrets rose sheer from bare rock. Storm clouds sparked blue lightning between battlements. Inside the drum tower's great hall, rough stone had been draped in Dornish silks and Tyrell brocade, yet salt gusts found every seam and snapped tapestries like sails. Oberyn arrived with Ilaria and a modest honor guard. Sir Talon Sand, his tall daughter bold as wind, Nymeria Sand sporting twin cat o' nine tails looped at her belt, and Tyrion, cloaked in black and crimson, bearing scrolls. Stannis met them with nods stiff as frozen rope, then took his place beside a hearth fed by driftwood. An hour crawled by before distant trumpets wailed. All turned as the great doors ground open. She entered like dawn chasing storm cloud, Daenerys Targaryen, silver gold hair streaming over scaled armor of beaten copper, cloak of white falling to boot tops. Behind her padded 3 scaled beasts, the largest smoky black with green fires smoldering beneath obsidian hide, a bronze gleaming sibling, a smaller green one quick as spring vipers. Their claws struck sparks on flagstones. Freedmen's spearmen waited at the threshold, disciplined, eyes wide at stone walls they could not breach without dragons. For a breath, the world shrank to 2 monarchs studying each other across the hall's length. Oberyn lifted his spear's butt from the floor and bowed just enough to honor without surrender. Your grace. She inclined her head fractionally. Your grace. I thank you for hospitality in a keep where my ancestor failed decades past. A failure I do not wish to repeat, he said. They closed the distance until only a spear's length stood between. May I? Daenerys asked, hand extended toward the weapon. Oberyn reversed the spear, offered the haft. She ran fingers along dark wood, pausing at the head. Obsidian and steel. Venom in the groove. She smiled faintly. The world calls me Mother of Dragons, yet my children fall to spear points. You remind me of that truth. He watched dragon pupils dilate to moons behind her. And you remind me steel is not always tempered by flame alone. Justice can be born in fire as in poison. Their words, courteous as Dornish dates, held undertones deeper than the hall's pillars. Threats, promises, invitations. Dragons sniffed the air. Talon Sand's hand slid closer to sword pommel. Nymeria's whip handles jangled. Tyrion broke tension like a jester twirling bells. Shall we drink to a future in which none of us roast or writhe? Daenerys' eyes softened. Tyrion Lannister. She touched his shoulder. I know your name from Essos. Slayer of chains at Meereen. Her gaze flicked to Oberin. He taught my people wells of knowledge. I am grateful. Oberin nodded to Tyrion, whose grin spread. Well, wells can run dry or flood. Best to irrigate carefully. Laughter scattered the hush. Even Stannis' lips twitched. They feasted on fish stew thick with saffron, Dornish spiced wine, and honey cakes shaped as suns and dragons. Conversation mapped their worlds. Dorne's water gardens, Slaver's Bay scrubbed of chains, mines reopened in the Westerlands under Sand Snake oversight, the North's slow thaw in summer's tale. Through it all, Daenerys listened, sipping wine seldom, measuring each morsel of news. At last, she set goblet down. My claim is by blood of kings, she said. Yours, by blood of vengeance. House Targaryen governed 300 years. You, 3. I ask, will this realm sustain when fires burn low and vipers sleep? Oberyn leaned forward. It will, if we braid our strengths. I do not covet war with dragons. I propose counsel instead. Sit beside me. Rule beside me. The realm will heal faster beneath mercy and fear entwined. Now. A hush, broken only by crackle of logs. Daenerys' dragons rumbled low, amber eyes flicking. She rose, the beasts following like smoke-wrought shadows. I will consider. At dawn I fly to Dragonstone for memory's sake. Your answer to my decision will find me there. She left, bronze wings brushing lintel. Guards retreating before scaled tails. Silence pooled. Tyrion exhaled. Either we saved the realm, or painted a bullseye on it. Oberyn stroked chin. We planted a seed in scorched earth. Let us see if it dares sprout. Dragonstone slept uneasy beneath dragon wings. Moonlight limned towers to ghostly lances. Sea wind moaned through gargoyles. Within the chamber of the painted table, Daenerys paced the map's sinuous rivers, wrists crossed behind her. Missandei hovered by a brazier, reading fresh dispatches from Volantis. Triarchs pledging coin if dragons toppled Dornish rule. Outside, Grey Worm drilled unsullied. Spears clacking like locust legs. The door groaned open. Tyrion entered. Hooded, rain sheeting off wool. Your Grace. Missandei stiffened. Unsullied at the threshold bristled. Tyrion raised hands bare of blades. He sent me alone. A gesture of trust or folly. Daenerys waved guards away. Speak. Tyrion stepped to the table's edge. My king offers concessions. The Riverlands shall swear to you, as shall the Stepstones when pacified. A dragon lord's seat in the council. Sons and daughters of your freedmen welcome to Maester's citadels. He asks in return. You name him co-sovereign and wed your blood to his. Bah! Her brows arched. Marriage. A braid of sun and fire, Tyrion quipped. So the realm need not taste either alone. Daenerys circled him. Does Oberyn believe I require wedlock to claim Westeros? He believes dragons burn less fiercely when hearths are tended by partners, not rivals. She stared at molten glass castles. My first marriage forged an army. The second set ghosts between my dragons and me. What would a third forge? A realm where children of slaves sit counsel with children of lords, Tyrion said. He means to erase the wheel you vowed to break, not replace it. Silence. Outside, breakers smashed cliffs. At length she whispered, Tell him to come. Alone. Dragons will judge. Oberyn rode to Dragonstone aboard the swift Vengeance, now refitted with carved dragon eyes at prow. Talon and Nymeria begged to follow, but he refused. One must face fire. Stripped of scales. On deck, beneath star-spattered sky, he meditated, recalling Elias' laughter, her children's gurgles, the way Sand Snake's infant hands clutched his finger. He remembered Tywin's last breath, the weight of crown cutting flesh. Justice, vengeance, and now, perhaps, Atonement. When dawn bled over the sea, the island's black peaks rose like teeth. Daenerys met him on the beach. Barefoot on wet sand, cloak streaming, she looked more spirit than queen. Dragons circled overhead, cries shivering the surf. She spoke first. "Do you love this realm?" "I love what it might become," he answered. "A place where no babe is dashed against walls for being born wrong." "Then kneel." Her dragons landed behind, wings folding with thunderous rustle. He knelt. Saltwater-lapped boots. She drew a dagger wrought from a dragon fang and sliced her palm. Crimson dripped to sea foam. She extended the blade. "Risk your blood with mine." He took it, copied the cut, pressed wounds together. Their mingled blood seeped hot between fingers. "Blood of the dragon, blood of the viper," she intoned. "Let the seven judge." The largest dragons sniffed their clasped hands. Steam rose from nostrils. It drew back, then nuzzled Oberyn's hair, rumbling approval. A second beast spread wings. The third coiled round Daenerys like a living cloak. She exhaled. "The dragons accept. I accept. We shall rule as two fangs in one jaw." He rose, wet sand clinging to knees. "Then let us bind realms the way our blood now mingles." Dragons trumpeted, sending gulls shrieking. Word raced faster than ravens. Fire and sun conjoined. Thrones once sundered by 3 centuries of conquest now promised unity. In King's Landing, bells pealed. Marguerite danced among orphans in the street of silk, scattering roses. Stannis brooded at harbor's edge, but nodded grim approval. Catelyn Stark penned letters to northern lords urging welcome to dragon envoys. Pettier Baelish watched from balcony, calculating. A marriage of power starved chaos of gaps. He sipped sweet arbor red and pondered sharper paths. Night cloaked him as he descended secret passages carved in Maegor's rain. Torches guttered, echoing footfalls, until he reached a chamber guarded by gold cloaks sworn to him alone. Inside waited Cersei, eyes fever bright behind iron bars. Her penance cell had hollowed cheeks, sharpened hate. Baelish halted outside reach. "Good evening, Your Grace." "Is it?" she rasped. "I bring opportunity. Dragons marry vipers. Lions need not perish if they learn to sting." "Da." Her laugh was cracked porcelain. "Spare me riddles. Speak. I will release you, spirit Tommen beyond seas. Dragons may forget a boy lost to winds. In return, your name, your beauty, your hunger for vengeance, placed in my pocket." Cersei's gaze glittered like broken emeralds. "Release me, and I will flay the viper myself." Baelish's smile deepened. "Then we have accord." He produced keys, metal whispering. Chains fell. Cersei stretched shackled wrists, eyes aflame. Atop Baelor's sept, twin dawns greeted the realm. One of sun, one of dragonfire. Oberyn and Daenerys stood before the crowd, hands clasped. The high septon anointed their brows with holy oil, first his, then hers. Dragons roared overhead, tails writing smoke runes upon sky. Small folk cheered, voices tidal. In the Red Keep's Godswood, Illyria watched with Talon and Nymeria. Pride warred with ache. The king had chosen unity, but it carved hollows within hearts still beating for him alone. Illyria swallowed bitterness, whispered, "His happiness is ours." Nymeria eyed her father's bride with curiosity. "A queen of legends." "Legends devour men," Talon warned. "We must guard him." They did not see shadow slink along crenellations. Cersei, clad in plain cloak, dagger glinting. She slipped through celebrating crowds, eyes fixed on Oberyn's spine. 10 steps. 5. No guards noticed in raucous joy. She lunged. A whip cracked. Nymeria's lash coiled round Cersei's wrist, wrenching blade away. Talon's sword flashed, tip at lioness' throat. Cersei hissed, hair wild. Oberyn spun, recognition flaring. Daenerys' dragons shrieked above, sensing threat. Baelish darted from column, features frozen in mock horror. "My queen, what madness!" Cersei spat. Your plot fails, Littlefinger. Oberin descended, calm as dusk. Why, Cersei? For my children, she hissed. For a realm stolen by snakes and flames. His expression saddened. Your children deserved gentler, mother, just as the realm deserves kinder rulers than lions and vipers at war. He signaled guards. Chains clasped her wrists anew. Baelish stepped back, too measured. Oberyn caught the calculation, gestured again. Spears crossed before the mockingbird. Baelish yielded a rueful bow. Chaos is a ladder, your grace. I climb too high. Then climb down, Oberyn said. Into darkness. The dungeons beneath the Red Keep tasted of rust and moss. Oberyn visited Baelish in the black cell where candle stubs burned like shrinking lives. He carried parchment bearing lists of bribes, betrayals, murders traced to Littlefinger's quill. Baelish eyed the scrolls. All true, no doubt. But truth is coin. Spend it and you cannot reclaim. Lendersund. I intend to spend it liberally, Oberyn said. Your trial will be public. Baelish shrugged. Public or private, kill me and martyrs bloom. Spare me, and daggers turn inward as factions grovel for my favor. Oberyn studied him. A viper's sting delivers quick death. A dragon devours whole. But sometimes, mercy is slow poison. You will live, in the citadel cellars, scribing ledgers until quills erode bone. Silent sisters will cut your tongue but not your hands. You will record every debt owed Westeros. In that ink, chaos dies. Damn! Fear flared in Baelish's eyes for the first time. He opened mouth. No sound emerged. Silent sisters stepped from shadows, blades glinting. Oberyn left as the first cut pieced hush. Winter's teeth arrived late that year, gnawing white across the gift. At Castle Black, ravens croaked news of unity. Sun and dragon. Jon Snow, Lord Commander, wrapped furs tight, reading scroll by flickering torch. Samwell Tarly peered over his shoulder. Dragons allied with Dorne. Sam whispered. Do we dare hope the crown will answer our pleas for men? Jon's breath ghosted. A king and queen who no fire's cost might heed us. Send Raven south. As Quill scratched, horns blared thrice. Shadows moved beyond the wall. Blue eyes, silent as grave frost, marching. Jon's heart hammered. He sealed the scroll with urgency. Pray fireflies swifter than ice. In King's Landing's map room, Oberyn and Daenerys stood before the carved continent, markers denoting garrisons, harvest stores, unrest pockets. A new marker, white bone topped by a shard of ice, sat on the neck. The dead march, Daenerys whispered. Oberyn placed a sun-shaped marker beside it. Then living must meet them. Dragons in the air, spears on the ground, winter fire at our backs. She turned to him, eyes bright as molten silver. Will the realm follow? He brushed knuckles along her cheek. For the first time in ages, the realm believes. That is mightier than any sword. They kissed beneath torchlight. Outside bells tolled, warning, celebration, mourning. No one could say. Yet the sound carried across rooftops, over flea-bottom alleys, down the Blackwater Vale, and north along winter roads where wolves howled answer. Far beyond, atop a glacier cliff, the Night King raised gaunt hand. Snow swirled against stars. Echoes of bells drifted faintly, alien to endless hush. He closed icicle fingers, shattering distant music. Behind him, thousands of dead turned faces southward. But in the living realm, a Viper King and Dragon Queen stood ready, blood intertwined, justice and flame alloyed. Spears were honed, dragons fed, hearts steeled. And somewhere, in the hush between breaths, Elia Martell's echo answered once more, a mother's lullaby threading dawn. That wounds might close, that children might dream, that vengeance might, at last, give way to peace bought dearly, guarded fiercely, shining like sunrise upon a snow-crowned world.